Okay, so Kerri, I'm going to put your I'm Kerri's what am
He's
I?
my moderator today. He's my tech support. So I have some notes that we're going to look at together, and I'm going to put them somewhere. Stovall, where are they going to be? Should we put them in
right here?
Okay. Am I going to be able to present those, or should I just? Ah, look, here they are. And will you put them also underneath the link that you posted on the table? And maybe if there's someplace. So if you guys, oh, thank you. Thank you, Judy and Jean. All right. So I'm going to be just reading from these notes and kind of teaching from them.
Hey, do y'all like our green screen fireplace without the but we don't have the fireplace yet.
It's just the brick wall right now, but hey, we'll take it. So I've got some notes. I'm just going to teach from them. You know, this was 2 Torah portions. And so it was hard to pick what to read from, you know, because it's just this massive overview of Joseph's life. And it was like, it's just major. Like it was, I don't know, it's like 7 chapters of the Torah and then readings from the New Testament and Amos. And I almost did just the life of Joseph, but I found this kind of theme and this connection running through the robe of Joseph. So I really want to just approach looking at this section of Joseph's life. So these 2 parashats. This parashat, what do I say? Vayeshev and Miketz. Okay. And I named it Follow the Robe because that's literally what we're going to do today is we're just going to follow the symbol of Joseph's robe throughout the scriptures. And I wanted to start off with this first scripture, just kind of kick the whole thing off, because this is the direct connection between Joseph and Jesus right here. Philippians 2 verses, what does it say here? 5 through 11. So can you just kind of pull this up for me here so I can see it like full screen or whatever, just so I can read it with my little glasses. Okay, yeah. And it says this is something that is very well known. It says, have this mind among yourselves, which is yours in Christ Jesus, who, though he was in the form of God, did not count equality with God a thing to be grasped, but emptied himself. What's going on here? Okay, thank you. But emptied himself by taking the form of a servant, being born in the likeness of men. And being found in human form, he humbled himself by becoming obedient to the point of death, even death on a cross. Therefore, God has highly exalted him and bestowed on him the name that is above every name, so that at the name of Jesus, every knee should bow in heaven and on earth and under the earth. And this is really important. At the name of Jesus, every knee should bow in heaven and on earth and under the earth. I want you to keep that pattern in mind as we go through Joseph's trials. And it says, so that at the name of Jesus, every knee should bow in heaven and on earth and under the earth, and every tongue confess that Jesus Christ is Lord, to the glory of God the Father. So, all right, we're going to just kind of jump in. But if you can look at that and you can see, is there a way I can control can you minimize this? Can I control it so I can do it? That way I don't have to keep asking you. Because I like to see the comments. Okay.
Yeah, I'll just go ahead.
Okay. So anyway, if you were here and you heard me read this verse, can you just raise a hand or something? Yeah. Okay. So all right, good. So you can see right here in Philippians 2, 5 through 11, that this is sort of follows this is about Jesus, and the thing that's being described here by Paul, the theological word for it is called kenosis. It's the emptying. Jesus is describing Jesus emptying himself of everything that was great about himself, all of his status, all of his power, all of his authority in heaven, right? So thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Wilma. Okay, good. I think we might be on a little bit of a delay here, so kind of getting used to that. But yeah, so he's emptying himself of everything that made him this, the Prince of Heaven, and he's coming down. He's humbling himself. He's taking on the form of man. So, he's lowering himself so that he can redeem mankind. And it said because he did this, God exalted him. because he laid down his life, then God was the one who exalted him and put him in a place where now every knee in heaven and on earth and under the earth is going to bow down to him. Everyone will confess that he is Lord. So let's take a look right now at that life of Joseph. So how did you get people to read?
Well, they're not going to be able to
Oh, because we're not on Google Meet. That's why.
Exactly.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Yep.
I like the reading, but since we're on YouTube Live and not Google Meet, we can't, like, y'all can't read, so I'll just do it. So let's zone in on this robe. Okay, I call it Joseph in the robe of destiny.
You want me to pull it up for you?
Yes, thank you.
This is the robe of destiny. I wanted to have my special effects for this statement, but weren't able to do it.
We're going to get better and better at this because there's lots of things we can use. I like doing this. I like the live stream. This is so much easier for me than recording. Just so much easier just to even see you guys' comments on the side. It really was like feels like you're with people.
And I'm excited about renovating our entire apartment with green screens.
Yes.
So when you can't really renovate them, you need a fireplace. Well, then you can just throw one on different green screens around your house.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's look at the symbol of this robe. This is really important. It says, this is Genesis 37, 1-4. It says, and Jacob settled in the land of the sojourning of his father in the land of Canaan. These are the generations of Jacob. Joseph, being 17 years old, was shepherding the flock with his brothers. He was shepherding the flock with his brothers. So this story starts when Joseph is 17 years old. He's shepherding the flock with his brothers. So he's amongst them as a worker. He's working in the fields. And it says, and Joseph, and he was a helper with the sons of Bilhah, the sons of Zilpah, the wives of his father. And Joseph brought a bad report to them of his father. Remember, Bilhah and Zilpah were the concubines of Leah and Rachel. Okay, so they had their own sons with the family, and Joseph is out there with those sons, helping them feed the sheep. And Joseph brought a bad report of them to his father. Now Israel loved Joseph more than all of his sons, for he was a son of his old age, and he made a robe with long sleeves. And the literal word for this we normally translate it coat of many colors. We'll talk about that later, but the Hebrew for this is kethoneth pasim. And so what that means really is that it doesn't say colors. None of those words actually mean colors. The concept for colors is not in them. It's the word kehoneth means a tunic, right? And then pasim means hands or soles of the feet. It can mean colorful as well, but that's more by association than the direct meaning. I hope that makes sense.
So why did they call it? Because that's what I've heard like forever, like
color.
Yeah. So why did they?
So a pasim, I think it's more because I think the coat of many colors really is a translation link from the Septuagint.
Because it did have many colors, right? It described it.
This is how this was one of the things I stayed the longest with when I was studying for this. It was really difficult because I love to do word studies.
Oh, and that's how you got in, because I don't know if she told y'all, but that's how you started following this robe thing.
Yes, this is how I picked the robe, because it's like, why is this, when you look at the Hebrew words, it basically kehoneth. Yeah, kethoneth is just a word for tunic, and it's used in certain places, which I'm going to go over in a second, but it's used of the king. It's used of the priestly tunics, specifically of Aaron's tunic. And then it's used, this pasim means the hands or the soles of the feet, or folds, maybe as a unit of measurement. So imagine like when you're measuring fabric out, you do yards, like yards of fabric. Well, they didn't do yards, then they would do hands, this many hands of fabric, right?
So it was the coat of
many hands of many.
So it's like a long coat, a large coat.
Yes, a large coat. And so when we talk about the robe specifically, but that's what kind of got me on this. What is with this robe? And this word kehoneth pasim, outside of the story of Joseph, only appears one other time. Specifically, this kehoneth pasim only appears one other time.
And where's that?
It's the story of Tamar, when her brother, you remember David's daughter, that her half brother molested her, and she was wearing the same kind of thing. It was a clothing of royalty, and so this is gonna. I don't want to give my end away, but we'll go through. I want to talk about Jacob's function here, though. Joseph.
One more time, Kerri, could you tell us that word that is many times translated colors, but it really means links or
It's
like
passim. That's passim. I don't know if you guys can see that in the notes that that I am you know, that I have posted up there, but it's right there under Roman numeral 2, chapter section capital A, the symbol.
Yeah. Let me do this for him. Watch this.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, he's going to put it where you can read the notes better. Ah, there it is. Okay. That's better for me too.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So anyway, it says, so that word manifold, we'll talk about that when we get to, but well, I'll go ahead and say it now. So what happened is what is in the Septuagint, the Greek translation of the Bible, there's a word poly something, and you're going to find it. We're going to read this verse at the end, but in Ephesians 3:10, where Paul talks about making known the manifold wisdom of God, he uses the Greek word poly something. It's down there at the bottom of the notes. So I'll say it when I get to it. But when the Bible was translated into Greek, the whole Bible, the translators didn't have a word for that translated directly to the meaning of passim. So they used this word that Paul used for manifold in Ephesians 3:10, and it actually does mean many colored. It means lots of colors, lots of facets, like a kaleidoscope. That brings in the idea of beauty, but it does have some links also in the New Testament, I mean, in the Torah with the priest's robe. So we'll get to that when I get to it. But that is a translation link more so than what this word actually says. And it was interesting for me.
So I'm putting a modification on what I want for Christmas, not just a robe. I want a robe of many passim.
Okay.
Right?
You just can say a
I want a
passim.
large robe.
A large passim. So this was, well, we'll talk about this because it's right down there. I don't like to give away my big reveal ahead of time. So, all right. So anyway, and it says, when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, they hated him and were not able to speak peaceably to him. Like they hated him so much, they could not even talk to him without fighting. That's how bad the rift was. And you see you see something happening here. And I want you to think of Jesus. So what happened was this bad report, the Hebrew word for it is dibatam. And basically what it means is Joseph, he didn't slander them. The word does, when you look it up in the Hebrew, it does actually start off with, this is slanderings, right? This is a slanderous report, but it also can mean a true report about their bad deeds. And this establishes Joseph as the witness of hidden wickedness. He comes into the place where the brothers are. They're doing something wickedness. And what does he do? He sees the evil of it. He goes back. And what does he do? He reports it to his father to say, this is something that is happening over here that your sons are either lying to you about. My thought is that, one of the things that sometimes shepherds would get punished for was killing and eating the flocks and then saying that a wild animal killed the flocks, right? So killed it. And so they were having a big feast out there in the fields with the sheep that they're supposed to be protecting and then blaming it on a wild animal. That was just something that was even encoded in ancient Near Eastern laws and the punishments for that. So
did you hear that, Titus? Huh? All right.
I see that I'm going to have a teaching partner as well today. Right. So, anyway, so this was what that dibatim was. It was a dibatim. I'm sorry, it was a bad report, and it establishes Joseph does a few things. It establishes Joseph as the witness of the brothers' evil, right? And it shows that he values the truth over fitting in with his brothers. And by reporting the behavior to his father, Jacob, he does 4 things. Okay. First of all, he shows that he only values doing what pleases the father, therefore aligning himself with the father's will. So when this, if you have siblings, you don't want to be the person that aligns themselves with your parents and then you're going to tell on people. That's kind of like the snitch kind of thing. But this was more than that, I believe, for Joseph. This was Joseph saying, what would my father want in this circumstance? My brothers are doing this wicked thing and he doesn't know about it. And I could choose to not say anything about it. But by not saying anything about it, I'm actually participating in it. And so he makes a choice to align himself with the Father's will. And that should remind us of Jesus when he says he only does the things that he sees the Father doing, right? John 8:29. And he also proves himself as the one worthy to lead the family. And this is why. Because Joseph is looking at the sheep, as at the estate, at the actions of his brother, not as one amongst them, but one who is looking through the eyes of the Father that sees that what they're doing is breaking family loyalty, or maybe misusing family resources, or maybe doing something that, it doesn't seem like it's something that is like terribly, terribly sinful, because Jacob doesn't react to it in a harsh way or go punish them even, which maybe reveals a little something about him. But it is something that you should know about. And when Jesus proves himself as the one more worthy to lead the family by looking at it as the owner, looking at these resources and this work as the owner looking at it, not just as the one doing the work. It says, and also he sets himself apart from his brother, and he brings upon himself both distinction, setting himself apart, right, as the worthy one, and also sort of an outsider status, right? He's their brother, but because he has been honored above them, he can't walk in their ways. And so this was, he can't be one of them and above them at the same time. Like he's one of them, but he's not with them. That should also remind us of Jesus, who came into his brothers and into Israel to his brothers, and he was one of them, but he was one of them, but he didn't walk in their ways. He was also above them. This is kind of what Jesus means by being like, we're in the world, but we're not of it, right? We're not of their ways. We're here amongst people, we're humans, but we can't walk in the ways that are not ways of the Father. And so Joseph was a very concrete example of this. And then Jacob's decision to give Joseph the coat seems to be connected directly to Joseph's decision to step apart from the ways of his brothers and be loyal to the Father and the family's honor. And you see this in verse 9, Philippians 2:9, where it says, therefore God has highly exalted him and bestowed upon him a name that is above every name. Because you look at this right here in Genesis 37:1-4. Look here, it says, now Israel loved, Joseph brought the bad report. In verse 2, Joseph brought a bad report to his father. And then it says, now Israel loved Joseph more than all his sons, for he was the son of his old age, and he made a robe with long sleeves for him. Let's talk about the garments themselves. So can you scoot up? And are they going to be able to go along with me here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, look, see.
Let's push this down first and see if there's anybody that has any questions or anything about that.
Okay, and I'll go to the next page. All right, yeah.
Okay.
Hey, everyone.
Okay. All right.
I'll ask them.
So while you're looking at that, I want to just kind of do a little check in here, because when I have my notes up big where I can see them, it blocks the comment section.
So yeah, I can put that up, or
Okay.
it doesn't block it as well.
Okay. Yeah, it's better if you put it like, you can squeeze that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Good. All right. So let's go on to the next. Let's go down a little bit. Look at the garments of favor. Can you scroll down? Oh, that's better for me.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Thanks. All right. The garments of favor. Let's look at the meaning of this robe and what it means.
Let me make sure they have it over here.
Okay.
No, yep.
Can you put the notes into the comments so people can just drag it into the comments?
Yeah, I think so. Oh, is this another one?
No, you opened it again.
Okay, sorry.
You just kind of think if you just drag
okay,
it.
So they're with you right here. Y'all
Okay.
are on this part.
Yeah. But why don't you drag these notes into the comments right
All right.
here?
I don't think it does that.
Oh, okay. All right. Anyway, so let's go. I need you. I have to do it myself.
Yeah.
How do you?
Don't you want me to pull that back up, honey?
Yes, here.
Okay,
So
good.
far, so good. Okay. Pull it back up again, because I need to.
Okay.
It's behind here. All right. So I need you to go up a couple pages.
All right.
Nope, not that way. The other way. Right here. Stop. Garments of favor. Right at the top there. Thank you. That's it. This is what happens when you're not controlling your own cursor. All right. Okay. So, look, garments of favor. So the tunic given to Joseph by Jacob was more than just this pretty coat that was like, oh, you have something like this nice outfit that I don't have. It wasn't just that. The coat meant something that had a meaning in and of itself. And like I said earlier, outside the story of Joseph, the exact term Kethoneth Pasim occurs in only one other context in scripture, and it's in 2 Samuel 13:18-19, when Tamar is disgraced by her half-brother Amnon. So let's read that just so we can get a feel of it. It says, now she was wearing a long robe with sleeves. Again, Kethoneth Pasim. Kethoneth. I can't always forget that in the center. For thus were the virgin daughters of the king dressed. So his servant put her out and bolted the door. So after her half-brother disgraced her, he threw her out of his room. He's like, I can't stand this girl. I don't want to see her. Throw her out, as people often do when they've used up others that they're exploiting or taking advantage of, because that person reminds them of their sin. So they want them gone, right? Want them banished. And so his servant throws him out, and Tamar put ashes on her head and tore the long robe, the Kehaneth Pasim, that she wore. She laid her hand on her head and went away crying aloud as she went. Okay. So she has the same kind of coat or tunic as Joseph has, right? So when she's disgraced, what does she do? She tears this garment off, like tears it to show the disgrace. What she's doing, and what does it say here? The robe gave her a status, for thus were the virgin daughters of the king dressed. And so when she was disgraced and was no longer a virgin daughter of the king, she ripped her robe to show the ripping of her status away from her, the ripping of her honor and dignity away from her. So the robe was very tied to her status. And then look here in Exodus.
Wait, so you're saying that robe was pretty much just like Joseph's?
Yes, it was the same thing.
So this really unique garment here, Tamar had one.
Yeah, Tamar had one too.
Okay, how did she get hers?
It was woven for her. So this is really important,
But like by who?
By the people, the clothiers, the people that were in charge of the royal wardrobe wore it for her. But we see it doesn't start with her, because look here in Exodus 28:39, the term kethoheth is also used to describe the priestly garments. They don't have the pasim, but they have the kethoheth. And I'm going to show you the connection between the two. It's really interesting.
This Tamar thing is huge, though.
I know we can't stop here because it's going to connect down at the bottom. So you won't let me get to it. Because it's going to be like, let me give you the details, and then it's going to go, this is how it's all connecting.
Okay.
So anyway, yeah, her robe is connected to her status, right? And her identity. And so, but let's go back and look at this word Kethaneth that you see in Exodus 28:4 and 28:39. It says, and these are the garments which they shall make: a breastplate. This is the garments of the high priest Aaron, okay? And really the high priest garments, a breastplate, an ephod, a robe, a skillfully woven tunic. And that word is Kethaneth Tashbetz. The skillfully woven part is the Tashbetz word. And what it means, it says the tunic of, it says a turban and a sash. So they shall make holy garments for Aaron your brother and his sons, that he may minister to me as a priest. So this is what they wore when they went in to minister to God in the temple. And look here again, it says in verse 39, you shall skillfully weave the teshbetz, the tunic of fine linen thread. You shall make the turban of fine linen. You shall make the sash of woven work. So this is what the deal is. That teshbetz means that you weave the cloth of the robe of the Kethaneth in such a way that when it reflects the light, there's like a checkerboard pattern. If you've ever seen sort of a tone-on-tone checkerboard pattern that's worked into the weave, the pattern is not in color, but in the way the weave is, the fabric is woven together, then you're looking at what this verse is talking about, the teshbetz. It's different. It's like the word is spelled different.
Like my new camo, new camo jacket.
Yes, it's a weaving pattern, not so much a color, but it was an intricately woven. It was very special. It signified a very high status. And this is where the status of the teshbetz, how do you say it again? Always tashbetz. And the pasim, they're two status symbols that go kind of together. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So look here. This is notes from. So I want just to let you know what the robe represented. I took these notes from blueletterbible.org. It says the robe, that this is true of the robe that Joseph received from Jacob, and also the robe that distinguished Tamar from the other women in the court, and maybe even other daughters who were not yet married, right? And also it separated the high priestly role of Aaron and his sons from the temple role from the other priests, right? From the priests that were of the tribe of Levi, but they weren't necessarily of the priestly line. But it says this: the robe signified a position of favor, princely and priestly standing, and birthright. Is a dramatic way of saying he was the son to receive the birthright. The real idea behind the ancient Hebrew phrase for tunic of many colors is that it was a tunic extending all the way down to the wrists and ankles, as opposed to a shorter one. This is not what a working man wore. It was a garment of privilege and status. So when you have a garment with long sleeves, the way it would do is it would cover to the palm. That's what that word pasim means, to the palm. What it was really signifying is that it came here, like right to the edge of the palm and down to your feet, like covered the even the tops of your ankles. It was something that you could not work in because your hands would not be free, it would interfere with your work. And it was intentionally done that way to say, this man is not working in the fields. He is over the people working in the fields because he does not do the work. And his garment actually indicated that. So when Jacob gave Joseph his garment, he was saying, I'm choosing you to step in the place of the eldest, and you're going to receive the birthright. Now, remember, Reuben was the oldest son, but Reuben actually went to bed with his father's concubine Bilhah, and that was not only a moral
These
problem.
guys are out of control.
It should make you feel better about your. It should make you feel better about your family.
Mm-hmm.
Is there this? Michelle, yeah, that's a great connection, and I don't have time to go in that today. But I would really encourage you to go back after we do this and really look for connections between the parable of the prodigal son and the story of Joseph, especially toward the end of the story, which I hope we get to today because we're going late. But if you guys can hang with me, we will get there. And so I want to take this right now. We have this robe, right? We understand that Joseph came and he told his father about the wickedness going on in the field. He was a witness to truth and a witness of the evil that was against the truth. That's the best way to think of it. And connect that to Jesus. He came into the world. He's the way, the truth. He's the witness of the truth in this world, and it made the world hate him. Okay. And so he immediately takes Joseph and he goes, this is the one. Now, Joseph, like I said, Reuben is the oldest, but he did some things to just qualify himself. And sleeping with Bilhah was not only a sexual sin, right? But it was also could be seen as a power grab to take his inheritance early from Jacob.
Like Ham.
Like Ham.
That's
yeah.
what
You
Ham
see
was
that.
trying to do with his mom.
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly right. That was, it says, and in fact, the Bible says, you shall not uncover the nakedness of your mother, for it is the nakedness of your father. So often when it says he uncovered the nakedness of his father, if that word is used or if, it blatantly says that a son slept with the concubines of his father, it was a way to humiliate his father and symbolize, I'm taking your power away from you and I'm taking over the family line. Now you're not dead. So he's getting his inheritance, including the title and the position before his father has passed. It was an incredibly bad, just terrible act of dishonor, as you can imagine. And so Reuben was not favored by Jacob anymore. And remember this about Joseph. Joseph was the firstborn of Rachel. He wasn't the firstborn in the series of sons that were born chronologically, but from the beloved wife, Rachel. He was actually a first son. Well, it's just obvious. I just was thinking about it because, Jacob is the firstborn from another mother. So it's just like Jesus is the firstborn of creation, right? And he is the first son of God. Like he's the first ever son of God, the unique son of God. Jacob was a firstborn of but he was a unique son, the firstborn of a unique line. So that's a really kind of hidden Easter egg in there.
Okay. So who's all been violated at this point? So there's Bilhah, there's Tamar. Could you just give us
you see,
could you just give us a recap of the current violations?
The current violations, originally Bilhah was violated, but she did go on to have other children, I think, by Reuben.
Tell us, okay, Bilhah was so-and-so, and she was violated by so-and-so.
Yes, Marcia, yes. It's Marcia Brinson. Yeah, okay. Marcia, yes. The robes were, and this is so important. I'm glad you're keeping that up. I'm going to come back to your question. To identify classes of people. And didn't the beggars wear some kind of coat or garment as they asked for alms in the temple? I think you're right about that. A long time ago, I went and studied all the different kinds of cloaks, and that's why it's very important. I'll get to this later, how Jesus, when he washed the disciples' feet, what did he do? He removed his outer garment and set it aside to take on the role of a servant. That is the of removing your status. So even though Jesus, he wouldn't be walking around in the clothes of the wealthy, within his group, because he's a rabbi, his outer garment would have symbolized his place of honor amongst the disciples and really in society, because he was a respected rabbi. And so when he removed his outer cloak to wash the disciples' feet, he was removing his status and literally taking on the robe of a servant. So that's a good catch. But going back to the violations, as you have Bilhah, and then you have...
tell us who was Bilhah.
Bilhah was the concubine of, I think she was Rachel. Okay. I think she was. Then we have Tamar, but she's not in this...
Who violated Bilhah?
Reuben.
Okay, Reuben.
Oh, and don't forget we have Dinah,
the son, what I'm saying,
the daughter. There's a lot of violation happening here.
The parashah, there's a lot going on. And why it's very important is because it ties into the redemptive meta-narrative. And Jesus redeeming women, but that's another
It's
message.
another line, yeah.
But if so tell us.
Well, let me
So
get,
there's Bilhah.
there's Bilhah, there's Dinah, and then if you go further into the biblical narrative, you're going to find Tamar, and there's lots of women that are violated between those two things. It's just that Tamar is connected to the robe.
And tell us, who was Tamar?
Tamar was the daughter of David,
Oh.
right? But Tamar also, you're kicking me offline. You're gonna want to stay. Let me go through this because you're gonna pull it together. So, okay.
Can I say one thing?
Yes,
and
you
I'll
can.
leave you alone. But
Joint teaching today, everyone.
The important thing about,
Lisa.
Like, I'm not gonna get into your conclusion or anything.
Please don't. I don't even. You don't know what my conclusion is.
I think I've gotten there.
Okay.
But anyway, in the beginning, Adam and Eve, they were clothed in the glory of God. They were set apart, right? They were rulers.
Yep.
So they were in that set apart category as having dominion, over the earth. And then that's kind of, we see this thing where, okay, we lost the glory, right? When we sin, but now the garment, the robe, becomes this earthly manifestation of the glory, or the setting apart of people for God's purpose. So I just wanted to say, it wasn't just like a class, like you were rich or whatever like that.
It was a setting apart.
It signified you were set apart as you could say, ruler, as in charge, or as steward or heir. So that's why I'm really, this Tamar robe, I want to get.
You can do that in your teaching. You can do that when you teach.
Okay.
All right. You can do a little bonus teaching this week if you want. All right. Let's keep going. So I want to stop right here.
Who didn't have robes?
Bigfoot.
The Nephilim.
Oh, that's right. Well, stop. Okay. Quit. Please. I'm going to have to banish you from this room. Okay. All right.
No, I'm the moderator.
Well, you're supposed to be silent if you're the moderator. Okay. All right. Let's skip from let's stop here and just take a little detour from Joseph and this storyline, and let's look at Psalm chapter 2. And it says this: why do the nations rage and the people plot a vain thing? The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, let us break their bonds in pieces and cast away their cords from us. That's Psalms 2, 1-3. All right. Now look at this. This is a heavenly scene. Okay. Why do the nations rage and the people plot a vain thing? The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together. Now this could be the rulers in the earth, but it also could be the heavenly rulers. And I would like to put out there to you that this is a cosmic counterpoint to what we're seeing happen to Joseph, that there is an authority in place. There is a Father God, and he has chosen his anointed one. All right. The Messiah. And they so hate the authority of the Son, right, his anointed, that they seek to break their bonds in pieces and cast away their cords from them. We hate the constraint of their authority over us so badly. Let's all come together and let's cast off their restraint. That's good. Let's rebel, right?
I never saw that. That is good. Just like Joseph. Just like Joseph.
Yes. Jacob chose Joseph, and they so hated him they couldn't even speak civilly to him at all. And so you have to feel the chafing of that weight of the authority of Jacob, now with the aligned, his favorite Joseph, that has been already signaled that he is above everyone with his long sleeved robe and everything. And then think of this as this is, to me, the rebellious Elohim of Psalm 82. They're the counterparts, the earthly counterparts to Joseph's brothers. And all through human history, where God is choosing people in the earth. First, he chooses people in the earth, and then the Elohim, the rebellious Elohim, who are over the rulers of the earth in the Hebraic worldview, cause the powers of the earth to rise up against God's chosen people, his chosen son, his chosen one in that age and in time, and to try to crush them. They cannot stand the manifestation of God's rule and authority in the earth. And that's why they raise up. And it says they take counsel together to throw the cords of the binding authority of both the Lord and his anointed Messiah, just like the brothers seek to cast off their father, Jacob's choice and the authority of his chosen son, Joseph. Okay. So let's look at how Joseph was can you roll this up? Joseph was the obedient son. And I want to talk about Shechem and Dothan. Okay. So Jacob, this is later on.
Check this real quick.
Okay.
Okay. We're not to the trimmer yet. Okay.
We're almost there yet.
Yep.
What's up there? All right. Okay. So this is from Genesis 37:14-17. Jacob is sending Joseph out to check on his brothers. He says, go now and see if it is well with your brothers and with the flock, and bring me the word. Bring me the report. Go out again and look at them and bring me a report. So Jacob sent him from, look at this great, from the valley of Hebron. And he came to Shechem, and a man found him wandering in the fields. And the man asked him, what are you seeking? Joseph says, I'm seeking my brothers. He said, tell me, please, where they are pasturing the flock. And the man said, they have gone away, for I heard them say, let us go to Dothan. So Joseph went after his brothers and found them at Dothan. Now, the meaning of the name Dothan means two wells. Okay, there's supposed to be two wells there. That's what it means. And this is the first time that Dothan is actually mentioned in the scriptures. And we're going to come back to that. But what do we remember about Shechem? What do we remember happened there? There was a violence that happened in the land of Shechem. And I'm going to give a second because I know that it happened to Dinah. And I can't see because I think, like I said, there it is. Okay. Oh, look at that. Go down because I'm not seeing all. Okay. No, that's it. All right. So if you remember from a few weeks ago, Dinah was molested by the prince of yeah, that's right. The rape of Dinah. Correct.
Hence the review I wanted earlier.
Yes. Okay. Okay. So Shechem is known as sort of a place of violence, right? There's place, and then of course the sons of Jacob who are still alive, who are right now, they're pasturing their flocks in Shechem, where they had before gone in and murdered like all the men of a particular city. I mean, this is a place where they're going to be reminded of the evil that they did there. They have already shown themselves to be violent people, right? And they're returned to Shechem, but they didn't stay there. Yep. Yes, correct. That's right, Tammy. Yep. And you're right, Wilma, they killed them in there. Mm-hmm. I think I'm going to talk past you a little bit because I'm bringing this up next, but okay. So they go in there, right? And the man found him wandering in the fields. And so what do they do? So from Hebron, now remember Hebron is where, this is where all the patriarchs are buried. This is like the valley where the kind of the headquarters, if you will say, of the patriarchal lineage are. Jacob sends Joseph from that place, right? And then he goes to Shechem. That's a pretty far walk. But then the sons, they're not there. They went all the way to Dothan. Dothan is it could be about a 2-day walk. So altogether, you should know that between Hebron and Dothan, Joseph probably walked for 4 days. He's far away from home now. Not easy to get back. They're far from Jacob's eyes. They're far from the seat of authority in the family. They're out in this kind of, Dothan is a place also where like trade routes would pass by. It's really probably not a great place to, bring your sheep because it's a little bit more busy, but they were out there. And notice how it says Dothan is 2 wells. We're going to see Dothan. I'm going to talk about Dothan later, but keep that fact about Shechem in mind. And we're getting close to the time when we normally close off, but I'd love to go ahead and finish this. So if you need to leave, it's okay. But if you can stick with me, that would be great too. All right. So look at this.
You can do a part 2.
I'm just going to finish it.
Okay.
If y'all want me to do a part 2 instead, but I'm on a flow here and
I don't know how you're going to finish it, man. This is
it's
really
like 15
good.
more minutes. It's
really?
like 15. Yeah, it's like 15 more minutes. Okay. All right. So
are you going to talk about Dothan, Alabama?
No, I'm not.
It's a bad place.
Okay.
Type in shadow.
Okay, so Jesus gave them, so I don't know why I have this here. Oh, some of this mixed up when I copied and pasted it. This is the verses of Joseph being the obedient son. So Jacob tells Joseph to go, and Joseph goes as the obedient son, even though it's a long a long walk. And even he continues to Dothan. He doesn't just go back from Shechem and say, hey, I went to Shechem, they're not there. He goes to find them because the command was go find your brothers and see what they're doing and bring me back a report, right? So Joseph fulfills the mission. He's going to he's not just going to check them. He's not just doing the bare minimum. He's going to fulfill the mission of his father for which he sent him, which was to go see your brothers and bring me back a report, be a witness of their behavior to me. So he goes, right? Now let's look at this. All right. So we're at the garments of blood right here. We're going to talk about how these garments of status and privilege turn into the garments of blood. And as Joseph is approaching his brothers, it says this in chapter 37, verses 18 through 20. And I'll also just skip ahead to 23 through 24. It says, they saw him from afar, and before he came near to them, they conspired against him. There's that throwback to Psalm chapter 2, conspired against him to kill him. I mean, they literally sat there like, how can we kill him? They said to one another,
total like Jesus coming to earth, seek and save the lost. He's going out into the world
to give
from the house of the Father. And then just like Jesus shows up, Joseph shows up, and they're like, oh, this is the heir. Let's kill him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. This is the heir. They called
exactly like the gospel.
They said to one another, here comes this dreamer. Come now, let's kill him and throw him into one of the pits in Dothan. Okay, so it's supposed to be 2 wells, but what they find is probably a dried out well that they're going to throw him in as a pit. So when Joseph came to his brothers, look at this, they stripped him of his robe. The Kethaneth Pasim, the robe of many colors, or the robe with long sleeves that he wore, the status robe, okay? And they took him and they threw him into a pit. The pit was empty. There was no water in it. So first of all, I want to say there's supposed to be this well there. There's supposed to be water. There's supposed to be life there, right? But it's empty now. The water is gone. It becomes a pit, and Joseph is thrown into the pit after his status is taken from him. He descends from his high place, his status, down into the pit. Right. And that word there, pit, is bor. It's a word that is frequently used alongside the word Sheol. So it's associated with the word Sheol. It's like the underworld, right? So you have to look at this descent, not only into a pit, but a bor. It's like something you'll often say when you read in the Psalms, they'll use this phrase called Sheol in the pit. That word pit is bor. So they're often used as called parallelisms in literature. They're meant to be used together because they kind of have the same imagery. Okay. But look at this. He's in Dothan, right? This new Dothan, this place of 2 wells. And you can almost see a decreation theme here where there's supposed to be this well with water in it, but the water is gone. So it's an empty well. It's not doing its function, right? And then they throw Joseph in it. Now I want you to think about this. A pit, what shape is a pit? Usually when it's a well, it's going to be a round shape, right? It's going to be a round shape. So I want you to remember that. But the first thing they do before they throw him in the pit is to remove the signs of his status. They strip him of his status and of his privilege and of his favor, because they don't just want to, kill him. They want to make sure that they humiliate him and lower his status as they kill him. They don't want to be killed as a person of status. They want to strip his robes from him and kill him, kill him naked, like just expose him. Can you scroll down? Mm-hmm. So let's see. Okay, yeah. So by stripping Joseph of his title and status and reporting him dead, the brothers seek to regain their rightful positions in the hierarchy. So another reason they're stripping him of his robes is to take away his status so they can have his status. Okay. Oh, you're way ahead there.
I'm all way ahead.
Yeah, that's okay though. You're good. You're actually right on the perfect page now. You're perfectly aligned. All right. So I want to tell you something about this. I want to give you a little note on Dothan. Okay. Dothan, this is the first time it's mentioned, but I want to let you know that the other time it's mentioned is, you'll all be familiar with this passage because it's a popular song, right? It's a popular song that says, it may look that I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. Dothan is where the servant of the prophet Elisha looked up and saw the enemy armies surrounding them in a circle. And he said, oh man of God, what shall we do? The king's armies are surrounding us. He's terrified. And then Elisha says, don't be afraid, because there are more with us than there are with them. And he prays that the Lord will open the eyes of his servant and let him see. And when the Lord does this, he sees not only the king's armies, right, that he was afraid of, but he sees the host of heaven, the armies of heaven surrounding, right, in the round around the king's armies. Like, yes, the king's armies are mighty, but look who is really behind them. It looks like we're surrounded, but they're surrounded. And Dothan, the place where Joseph was thrown into a round pit, is exactly the place where the Lord's armies surrounded the armies of the enemy when Elisha and his servants were surrounded. So you can almost draw that connection here, because even though Jacob is in the pit and he's surrounded by his brothers, he's surrounded by enemies, also he's surrounded by God. He doesn't know this now, right? But he is surrounded by God, because as he tells his brothers in the end, what you meant for good, for evil, God meant for good. God brought me here. He doesn't see it right here, but he does see it later. So that's a really interesting connection, right? All right. So look here. Then Reuben returned to the pit. This is in Genesis 37:29-35. And then Reuben returned to the pit, and indeed Joseph was not in the pit, and he tore his clothes. And he returned to his brother and said, the lad is no more, and where shall I go? Because Reuben was going to come back and save him. That's why he was like, don't kill him. Let's just leave him here in the pit. And what did he do? When he saw that Joseph was not in the pit after his brothers sold him, he ripped his garments. So there's another garment tearing. It says, so Joseph's brothers took Joseph's tunic and killed a kid of goats and dipped the tunic in the blood. So we see the garment of status being taken away from him, not ripped. This is really important. They didn't rip it up. They ripped up they just dipped it in blood, right? They didn't rip it. They just dipped it in blood. And they sent the tunic of many colors, and they brought it to their father and said, we have found this. I highlighted the word sent and brought in red, because this just shows, this is an interesting thing to show a method of manipulation. If you'll remember, Joseph had walked 4 days to Dothan. So what they did was, first they sent the tunic of many colors ahead of themselves to Jacob. What cowards. They didn't want to be there when Jacob got the news of Joseph's death. They couldn't face the grief that they were causing him. And then after that had passed, they then brought it to their father. So they sent it ahead with a servant. This is what this implies. They sent it ahead with the servant so that they wouldn't have to be there when his father saw it and see his grief. And then they showed up and brought it again to their father and said, we found this. Do you know whether or not this is your son's tunic?
Your son's, yeah.
Not my brother. It's not our brothers. Is this your son's tunic or not?
They knew what his tunic looked like.
Yes, obviously, because this was the very reason they actually killed him, was his tunic. And he recognized it and said, this is my son's tunic. A wild beast has devoured him. Without doubt, Joseph is torn in pieces. So think about that. His tunic was not torn. They didn't rip it as if a lion had like shredded it or something. They just took it off of him. They dip it in the blood. And then Joseph makes the connection. My son has been torn to pieces. This reminds me of Jesus, Jesus. His garments weren't torn either, right? But he was torn in pieces. He was whipped until his back was flayed. The son was torn in pieces, right? And it says, then Jacob tears his clothes. So you see these rending of clothes where there's dishonor. With Tamar, we saw that she tore the clothing that indicated her status. Then Reuben rends his clothes. Then Jacob tears his clothes. Only the tunic of Joseph was not torn, just like Jesus's robe was not torn. And then he does something else, but he doesn't only tear his clothes. Jacob would also have had clothes of honor, but he puts on sackcloth, the clothing of mourning, and he mourned many days for his son, right? And he says this. He says, in verse 35, for I shall go down to the grave to my son in mourning. The pit is the grave. This is just like Jesus. The pit is the grave. And his, you can make all the connections. I don't have to spell this out for you because I want to keep going. So we see here in Leviticus, this is why the rending of the garments is important, because we see here in Leviticus 21:10 that a high priest cannot rend their garments, right? Or they kind of like become unclean for the service. It says the high priest, the one among his brothers who has had the anointing and is set apart, has the anointing oil poured on his head and who has been ordained to wear the priestly garments must not let his hair become unkempt. You got to have your hair cut, and nor tear his clothes. So you shouldn't tear your priestly garments because they're the priestly garments. They're part of being set apart, just like the oil is, right? So you have to keep yourself clean and your garments intact. So ripping garments is a sign of like breaking with your ministry, your calling, your place, if that makes sense. Okay, so Judah and Jacob rend their garments, and Joseph's tunic is covered in blood, but it's not rent. All right, so keep going. So this next section is called the garments of treachery. So you can read all that, but basically what happens is we see all of this imagery of status connected to the garments, right? And so Joseph goes into he loses the robe of his royal heir, the Ketenet Pasim. But when he goes down into the pit and then he comes out and he rises to a position of power and position in status in Potiphar's house, he doesn't wear the robe of honor, but he wears the robe of a servant. It's called beged. Okay, it was a simple garment of the servant. And then what happens with his robe, as you know, with Potiphar's wife, she wants him to come to bed with her. She keeps trying to seduce him and he won't do it. And when he finally says, no, I'm not going to do this, one last time he runs off, what does she do? She grabs what? His garment. But it's not the royal garment, it's the garment of the servant. Why? Because this also symbolizes that she's in a position of power over him. And she can direct him. So she's exploiting him by taking the robe of his servant. She's taking it off of him. He's naked and exposed once again, but he leaves it. He leaves it with her.
This guy's like, I'm done with robes. I'm done with garments. Know what? My robe has got me in more trouble. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
And so he leaves it in her hands. And look at this, how the robe in both situations where the robe is stripped, the robe is used as a false witness against Joseph. Right? The robe is used to build the narrative of falsehood, a false witness against Joseph. The royal robe, the robe of favor, was used to bear false witness of his death. Wow. And the beged, the robe of the servant, was used to bear false witness against him for doing a crime he didn't commit. Like, this was a really big deal. These robes are so important, right? Okay, so then he goes down into the dungeon. Okay, so keep going down. Can you let me see here so I can see people's comments and just see if anyone say anything?
Yeah. Let me just do this.
There, that's good.
And then I'm going to close this. And then you can see
that's perfect.
All right there.
Oh, that's great. Okay, yes. Thank you, Marcia. That's great. And then how did they divide the garments of Jesus? That is very good, Tammy. What they did, Tammy, was we're going to talk about this a little bit later if we can get to it, but they actually divided his outer garments. That would be the one that he removed when he washed the disciples' feet. It was like if you ever see pictures of Jesus, he has the white robe and then he's got sort of, it looks like a sash or something over that. That is the outer garment is what they divided, but they did not divide his inner robe. Is it weird that Joseph was wearing his coat on this journey? Is custom to always wear this? He seems a bit overdressed. That's really funny. And maybe so, but you have to think of it, they didn't have government issued IDs there. And because it was a patriarchal society, which means not just that, the men had the power, but it was because the way that wealth was passed down was from father to son. And the position of that son, you have to think of it in the benevolent terms, really, as it was perceived in those days. Okay. When we hear the word patriarchy in our modern context, we might think of something oppressive, but that's really not how it was. The father, the patriarch of the clan, was also the center of governance for that family and that clan. And so he actually had some judicial power as well. So the reason you would wear your garments and maybe your ring or whatever it is that you had is because you might need to do business on behalf of the family. You needed to be able to show your authority when you were out and about. So it wasn't unusual actually for Joseph to have this.
No, it would be really important.
It'd be important for him to be dressed like that
too, because it represents your family, your tribe, or your kingdom. So if there were people, robbers or whoever, that, hey, let's go attack and rob this guy, when they saw his cloak or his coat, it would be like, oh, this guy comes from that family. If we mess with him, we there could be retaliation or whatever. But I do want to say that this idea, like if you go through all of Scripture, how the garment is used as either a witness for you or against you.
Well, think of Judah. They had that little weird interlude in chapter 38. It goes from they send they killed Joseph. Yeah, he was wearing the robe with authority and leadership, which annoyed his brothers all the more. Yes, exactly, Wilma. That's really good.
Like Jesus, all the parables, like, where's your garment?
Yeah.
How'd you get in here? You don't have the right garment on. And then you even, go to the robes and it's this garment. And how it's a testimony either for or against you.
Yep.
And how even if it's a testimony for you, the enemy will lie and twist it and use it, like with Joseph here, as a testimony against you. Like, in other words, they have to bring some type of reproach up on the garment.
Yes, that's exactly right. And think of how us, even when we come back with Jesus, we're in the armies of heaven, right? We're clothed in garments, white and pure. You can see that direct connection to the priestly garments, right? That were pure white linen. And we're going to talk about this later, but let me drive through this because it's already 12, almost 12:15. And I want to make sure I because this is really cool. Okay, so the dreamer in the dungeon, we're going to go through this. So it says Joseph is sent to prison. Then Joseph's master, Joseph's master took him and put him in the prison, a place where the king's prisoners were confined. And he was there in the prison. Now, I have learned when I see in one sentence a word, the robe of righteousness, that's good. When I see a word repeated 3 times in the same sentence, I know I've just learned to look at that word, of a word or variation. So you see prison, prisoners, prison. Okay. I want to read this again. Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison, a place where the king's prisoners were confined. So these were not just any prisoners. These are people that had been accused of crimes in the king's courts, right? It wasn't like with the general population. It was kind of like you've been accused of a crime that you did within the king's court, or where his servants or people serving in his court would go, not with the rest of the population in those prisons. But it really was a holding cell where you would await your hearing for your crime. So really what Joseph was doing is he was put into prison and he's awaiting for the king or whoever is going to hear his case. That's the kind of prison he was in. And it says he was there in the prison. So what's going on is the idea of a prison and confinement and this oppression, and is being put down. It's like the author wants you to feel the prison, the prisoners, the prison, just the restriction of freedom, and that Joseph is in zero control of his destiny here. Like, he has no control. So look at this. The word for prison there is bet ha-sohar, prisoners, a sire, right? Course prisoners. They're in the prison. The bet ha-sohar. Okay, ha-sohar is the prison. So look, that word for prison specifically is a roundhouse, which means that the way the prison was designed it was round. It was round, right? It was like a round house. It is very much associated with the pit that Joseph was thrown into in the beginning. So, right, when he had his first robe of royalty stripped off, right, he was thrown into a pit. Then he rises again. This time he has the robe of a servant, even though he's risen to a level of authority and power under Potiphar. He has this, and then that garment is stripped. And what is he? He's thrown into a pit again, because this is like a pit, a roundhouse, literally. That word ha-sobar means, sohar means round. It has like curved, right? It's a roundhouse. And then with the court prisoners. And then again, I want you to remember, Dothan was the place where the pit was. This is a pit, and it brings us back to, again, 2 Kings 6:15-17, when the servant of the man of God got up and went out early the next morning, an army with horses and chariots had surrounded the city. He says, "Oh no, my lord, what shall we do?" the servant asked. "Don't be afraid," the prophet answered. "Those who are with us are more than those who are with them." That's really interesting. Those who are with us are more than those who are with them. God is with us to the exclusion of them. It's not like God's mixing here and he's ambivalent. He's with us and he's not with them. He's not with them. And his servants, his armies are greater than their armies. Mm-hmm. And Elijah prayed, "Open his eyes, Lord, so that he may see." And then the Lord opened the servant's eyes, and he looked and saw the hills full of horses and the chariots of fire all around Elijah. Look at that, chariots of fire. We'll get that. Okay. Then we skip down. The Lord was with Joseph, and he showed him mercy. He gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. And the keeper of the prison committed to Joseph's hand all the prisoners who were in the prison. Whatever they did there, it was his doing. The keeper of the prison did not look to anything that was under Joseph's authority, because the Lord was with him, just like he was with Elijah and his servant. And whatever he did, the Lord made it prosper right there in prison. We could go on about that, but I want to keep going because I want to look here. This is crazy. Genesis 40 verses 3-4, it says, "So he put them, the jailkeeper, in the custody of the house of the captain of the guard in the prison, the place where Joseph was confined. And the captain of the guard," this is the baker. So new prisoners, this is when the cupbearer and the baker come into prison. They're put under Joseph's custody. And it says, "And the captain of the guard charged Joseph with them. And Joseph, look, served them Sharath." So they were in custody for a while. He served them. So this is so incredible. What it says is Joseph ministered to these officials. When they came in there, he ministered to them like a servant. Literally, the word says what it means to wash feet. Joseph, being stripped of his status, ministered to them, and the word has within it washing someone's feet. When you look at the connotations, it literally, here's the root: to attend as a menial or worshiper. He took on the role of a servant willingly, even though he was above them. Do you see? Even in the prison now,
This is all. Jesus descended into hell. He gets authority. He gets the keys over the prison to death, hell, and the grave. And how did he do that? He had to humble himself, like he had to come serve. He had to take on sin, even though he had no sin. So this is a whole picture here of the Lord descending into hell, getting authority over hell because he serves. So he gets the name above every name.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And I connect this right here to Jesus washing his disciples' feet in John chapter 13, verses 2-5, which we've already talked about. Okay. And then the cupbearer and that's okay. And the baker both have dreams. They tell them to Joseph, and Joseph is going to interpret them. He says, do not interpretation belong to God? And he says, tell me your dreams. So he gives them the interpretations, which we know. He says, when in a few days, in 3 days, the cupbearer is going to be restored, but the baker is going to be beheaded. And that's exactly what happened. And then Joseph says to the cupbearer, he says, hey, when it goes well with you, when you come back into your service, please remember me, remind me, because I've been kidnapped. I'm here. He said, I was stolen. That's what he said. I was stolen from the Hebrews. I'm not supposed to be here. He's way into this. And he's still how can I get back home? I need to get back home. Right. So, but the cupbearer forgets about him, and he's down there for 2 more years. And then one day, okay, Pharaoh has a dream, and we all know the dream. It's the wheat sheaves, the healthy wheat sheaves. Then the sickly wheat sheaves come up and devour the healthy ones. And then there's some healthy fat cows that come up out of the river. And then, the sickly cows devour them. And Joseph says, there's going to be, he doesn't just give Pharaoh the interpretation of the dream, which is 7 years of plenty followed by 7 years of famine. But he also gives him the solution. He says, let Pharaoh select a discerning and wise man and set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh do this, and let him appoint officers over the land to collect 1/5 of the produce of the land of Egypt in the 7 plentiful years. And let them gather all the food for those years. It's he's telling him what to do. And this is interesting because this reminds you of Mordecai, right? When Mordecai says, what should we do to such a man that deserves this honor? And Mordecai's like, give him a coat and a ring and let him go through the city on a horse. And everyone needs to bow down to him. Right. This is that was what's happening in Esther. I'm not going to get into that because that will take me on a whole thing. And I haven't studied it to make sure I have the details straight, but he's given him the solution. And then Pharaoh says, oh, that's good. You're the solution. You go do this. And look right here. Okay. Then Pharaoh says to Joseph, this is Genesis 41:39-45. Inasmuch as God has shown you all this, there is no one as discerning and wise as you. You shall be over my house, and all my people shall be ruled according to your word. Only in regard to the throne will I be greater than you. And the Pharaoh said to Joseph, see, I have set you over all the land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh took his signet ring off his hand. Look, here's the ring off of his hand. And Marcia, this is where it connects to the prodigal son. He took the signet ring off his hand and put it on Joseph's hand. And he clothed them in the garments of fine linen. This is the white robes, right? And in Egypt, the garments of linen were the garments of royalty, and they were woven in such a way, it was so pure, such pure linen, and they were woven in such a way that when you went outside in them, it reflected the sun, and the people wearing them actually glowed. They had a luminous appearance, right? Where are you going?
Oh, sorry.
Stop. Okay. All right. And then look, and he clothed him in garments of fine linen and put a gold chain around his neck. And then he had him ride in the second chariot. This is there was the main chariot, where it's like Air Force One and Air Force Two kind of. It's like this. The Pharaoh had 2 chariots. One was his chariot, the main chariot. There was a second chariot, so that when Joseph went forth, it was just as if he was Pharaoh. When he went forth in Pharaoh's authority, it was just as he was the same as Pharaoh. And it says, and Pharaoh called, and had him ride in the second chariot which he had, and they cried out before him, bow the knee, and he set him over all the land of Egypt. This is where you actually see the dreams that Joseph had, that he told to his father and his mother, and they told to his father and his brothers, about everyone bowing down to him. This is the fulfillment, but it wasn't fulfilled through Jacob's house. It was fulfilled in the house of Egypt, right? In the house of Pharaoh. And he wasn't not just his mother and his father and his brothers were bowing down to him, but literally the everybody in the largest, most powerful empire of the world at that time, right? So it was God fulfilled that dream in a way that Joseph could not have imagined, but he had to go through so much suffering and humbling to do it in order to be ready for it and to be able to, for it to come to pass. And then Pharaoh gave Joseph a name, Zapnath Paneah, revealer of secrets, or God speaks to him and he lives. There's a little bit of discrepancy about what exactly it means. And he gave him a wife, Athsenath, the daughter of Potipharah, priest of the city, priest of On, which is the city of the sun. So Joseph went out all over the land of Egypt. So he gives him a wife, right? He gives him a name. He gives him a robe. He gives him a ring. He gives him a chariot to ride. This is a complete transformation, right? And then we're going to kind of wrap it up here. I want to talk about one robe, many colors. And this is where I'm really going to tie the robes together. And thank you for bearing with me while I do this. That was it. One robe, many colors.
Yep.
Okay. So I want to notice when you go to the part where when you go to the Gospels and you look at Jesus where he's standing, he's gone to his trial and the soldiers are mocking him. You remember that they put a crown of thorns on his head, but before they did that, and they mocked him as king. Before they did that, in each gospel, they put robes on him. The interesting thing about this is that the robes were all different colors. Like in the Gospels give different colors to the robe. And some people like, and you know, people look at this and go, aha, like they look at, well, the Gospels are different here. So it's not a confirmation. But in this particular story, the colors of the robe actually track not only the story of Jesus, right? But it tracks the story of Joseph. And let's take a look at it. Like Matthew 26:65 says, then the high priest tore his clothes. That's what I want to start off with. So here's this link back to the rendering. When Jesus went before the high priest and he was accused, what did Caiaphas do? He tore his clothes.
It wasn't supposed to do that.
It was not supposed to do that. So now that priesthood that he represented, it's sort of like it's shattered. It's the unclean, right? It's not functioning. It's not functional. It's the best way to put it. It's not functional. He broke a commandment. He ripped his clothes and he cries out against Jesus. He's spoken blasphemy. Why do we need any more witnesses? So the high priest has torn his clothes. And then the trial proceeds. And look at Matthew 27, verse 28. They stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him. And then Mark says they put a purple robe on him. And then in Luke 23:11, it says they dressed him in an elegant, a luminous white robe, right? So the purple, this is kind of, I have this out of more, the purple robe is the royal robe. Okay, this is the color of royalty. Here's the crown of thorns. You're the king of Israel. You're the king of the Jews, right? They're mocking him. But what did Joseph get first? He got the royal robe, right? And then what happened? He got the royal robe dipped in blood, correct? Well, what did Jesus do? His robe was he became the sacrifice for us, right? He was bloodied. His blood was shed. So you could say his robe was dipped in blood too.
I'm just thinking even with Joseph and Jacob, right? So they kill an animal, goat.
Yeah, yes, just like atonement.
Yeah, and so it's on the coat. And then all of a sudden, oh my gosh, Joseph comes back from the dead.
Yes, well, that's what Jacob says. Alive. My son was dead and now he's alive.
So it's got, oh gosh, it's just got, and there's so many things you're talking about. It's like,
you really
more and more and more, like it's just.
And then look at the last one. Herod and his soldiers ridiculed and mocked him, dressing him in an elegant, a luminous white robe. Wow. It's the kind of robe that reflects the sun. Egyptian linen probably was
of God,
the glory of God.
With Adam and Eve in the garden. Yeah.
And Joseph, when he was brought up from the pit of the prison, he was given a white, luminous robe. And then Jesus is given a white robe in mockery. But then and if you look ahead to Revelation 19, it says when John saw him coming out of heaven, it says he was dressed in a white robe that had been dipped in blood as the risen Christ. I mean, this is a huge link through just the robe, right? And look here, Tammy, you were asking about this is where I'm going to like kind of wrap up for sure. When the soldiers crucified Jesus, they took his clothes, this is his outer garments, dividing them into 4 shares, one for each of them, with the undergarment remaining. And this garment, remember the garment, this is the priestly garment, was seamless, woven from one piece from top to bottom, exactly how the priest's robes were. And they said, they didn't. They said, let us not rip this garment for it's in one piece. This is in one of the Gospels, it says that. I don't know why I didn't choose that verse, but they specifically didn't rip it. So what do we have here? We have the high priest Caiaphas ripping his clothes, but even the rulers, the soldiers, did not rip Jesus's clothes, not his undergarment, not the seamless garment, not the kethaneth. They left it whole. This is a transition of a non-functional priesthood
Yeah,
to the eternal priesthood
yeah.
right here with the untorn garment, right? And I want to end here. So through all of this, the coat of many colors and the cloak with sleeves, all the robes and status, I want to read this about the manifold wisdom of God, because this word right here in manifold wisdom is the word that actually got translated to coat of many colors in the Greek translation of the Old Testament. So let me just read it here. Okay, this is from Ephesians 3. This grace was given to me. It's verses 8 through 11. This grace was given to me. This is Paul talking, the least of all the saints, to proclaim to the Gentiles the incalculable riches of Christ, and to shed light for all about the administration of the mystery hidden for ages in God who created all things. This is so that God's multifaceted wisdom, or some translations say his manifold wisdom, may now be made known through the church to the rulers and authorities in the heavens. This is according to his eternal purpose accomplished in Christ Jesus our Lord. Thank you, Margie. Thank you, Judy and Jean. Okay, well, it's gone on. I think you got it. And thank you for sticking with me. And I just want to pray us out. Father, thank you for everybody that joined in today. Thank you for their patience as we learn how to set up these live streams, God. And I pray that you will bless us all and help us to remember to take off our robe and be servants, and then also to pick our robes back up and take our places in your kingdom as your family and represent you so well in this world. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you, guys. Appreciate y'all.
Just floating so wild and free, and it all made sense to me.